Hello everybody, my name is Steve Todd. I'm a fellow for Dell EMC. I work in the CTO XPO division of Dell EMC for the Office of the CTO, looking at future trends. And today I'd like to talk to you about one such future trend, the value of data. The title of my talk here at Dell EMC World is Data Value, When Will Data Appear on Corporate Balance Sheets? And I'll give you the short answer, not anytime soon. But we've been taking a look for a couple years at the topic of data value and believe at some point that data will become an asset on corporate balance sheets. And therefore, it's good for the industry to begin to think about how you would put your data into an asset catalog and assign value to it. So here's what we're going to step through today during the presentation. First of all, we're going to cover our research over the last couple years that we've conducted in the Office of the CTO into the value of data. Secondly, we're going to let you know that from an infrastructure perspective, the infrastructure is ready to track and store the value of data, and we'll step through some of those examples. But we'll also point out that the industry is not quite ready for these features, and we'll talk about what that gap is, and then finally we'll talk about some of the next steps, where we're taking this research next, and how some of our customers can begin to work with us on this topic. So first of all, let's cover the research itself. We're going to talk about the problem that presented itself to us, which caused us to enter into this research. We're going to look at some of the topics that we studied during this research. We're going to take a look at some of the innovation activities that we practiced during this time. And then we're going to give a little bit of a readout, some of the engagements we've had with our customers regarding this research that are quite insightful. So first, let's take a look at the problem statement. In 2014, Capgemini and EMC did a survey of some of our top enterprise customers asking about big data and asking about analytics. And buried deep within that report, we found a really interesting statement that 2/3 of the people that we surveyed believed that their data assets could eventually become as valuable as the products and services that they sell from a revenue perspective. So we at EMC were looking at a $24 billion revenue stream from selling products and services, and we began to wonder ourselves, if we have to start making money off of data products and data services, how would we do that? We looked at customers like Australia Oil and Gas who said, we used to gather information about GIS data in order to help us sell our product, oil, but we started to realize that we could get revenue from the GIS data ourselves. So we decided to enlist the help of one of the top researchers in this area, Dr. Jim Short from the University of California, San Diego. And so Jim began to study some use cases in the industry on the value of data. And what he discovered was some very high-profile use cases where data was having an extremely high value. And an example was right here in Las Vegas, from where I'm giving this presentation right now. Caesar's Palace went through a bankruptcy proceeding, and when their assets were valued for the creditors, it was discovered that their total rewards customer loyalty database was valued at $1 billion. Now, there is disagreement about the value of that data. There is confusion about how to divide up that value among multiple creditors. And it just pointed out that the problems that are evident whenever you try and assign a value to data. We looked at acquisitions such as LinkedIn's acquisition of lynda.com. The CEO of LinkedIn essentially admitted, we bought lynda.com for their data, for their videos, so they could add certification programs to their LinkedIn offerings. Did they overpay for that data with a price of over $1 billion? Did they underpay for that data? Not clear. We've got great examples of companies turning their data into money, just like Australia Oil and Gas is. 23andMe, a DNA company, their revenue stream was based on selling DNA kits for $99 per DNA kit. Along came Genentech, who said to them, we'll give you $10 million just to access your data. with a potential $50 million on top of that if we like what we see. So all of a sudden, Genentech has the opportunity to add this business process where they're making money from data as well as making money off their products and their services. And then another high-profile use case is Tesco. Tesco needed cash, and they thought that they could sell their dunnhumby data science division for over $1 billion. When they tried to go to market with this data science team and their data, they discovered that their business was not structured properly to make the sale. And after many months of restructuring, they ended up selling that data for less than they had hoped. Still, a price tag of $900 million selling this data to Kroger. So Jim's conclusions with billion-dollar valuations of data, what he found was that there are no established methodologies for valuing data sets for purchase. There's no methods to show companies how to step through to monetization of those data sets. There's no process in place for showing a company how to create data products and services. And there's very little understanding of the value brought by analytic models. Customers are investing in data science teams and tools and tool sets. They're producing analytic models, but there's no way to tie the value of those analytic models to the investment made in the data science team. So given the problems that we were discovering as part of our study, Jim and I began to go out and search for other examples of people who were perhaps studying this already. And we discovered Doug Laney from Gartner. Doug had created a field called Infonomics. And Infonomics is essentially, he's come up with a set of equations that assign either an economic value to data or a score to data. And he's begun to meet with different customers in the industry on actually calculating those values and assigning them to data sets. So one example is Doug is creating an equation called the business value of information. And through this equation, we can look at any piece of data and assign a relevance to a given business unit, perform a summation of that relevance, and multiply it times other data qualities like validity, completeness, and timeliness. So we discovered that indeed there are some valuation approaches already out in the industry, and we decided to try some of those inside Dell EMC, and I'll get to that later on in my presentation. So given that we understood the problem, given that we had discovered a way to create algorithms that assigned a value of data, we began to brainstorm what is the best way to take those algorithms, insert them into an infrastructure, and then associate that value with the data itself. So we went through a brainstorming process, talking to the many business units inside Dell EMC, and we came up with 5 different approaches or ways to calculate value. The first approach was to simply open up every file that you have in your company and semantically analyze it and map it to business importance. This didn't seem relevant because it would interfere with production databases, so we talked to our data protection team. Data protection team said, yes, data protection analytics is a growing field. It's a great way to keep track of value, but it's also a great way to get additional metadata, such as what's the frequency of backup, what's the number of copies, who has access to that data. In addition to a data protection ecosystem, we took a look at content ingest. Is there a way to assign value to data as it streams into a system? We looked at how quickly applications were spun, how quickly new releases were deployed, because the faster you deploy new applications, the more valuable the data can become. And then finally, we looked at data science workflows. If we could track the activity of data scientists, looked at the insights that they were generating, and then map those insights to the business units and the value of the business decisions being made by them, we had a great chance to calculate the value of data. So we looked at all these approaches and really felt that number 3 and number 5, valuing data on ingest and valuing data as a result of data science activities, would be a great place to start. So this is where we ended our research phase, our study phase, and entered into an innovation phase. And the first thing we did was we said, let's actually take a look at this business value of information equation and apply it against our data sets inside Dell EMC. So you can see here 5 data fields or data sets that are important to our business inside EMC. And I'd like to focus on 2 of them. You can see that the customer address had the highest score out of these 5, basically saying it was highly relevant to many of our business processes, it was valid, it was complete, and you were able to access it in a timely fashion. We also had customer install configuration information also stored within EMC that had a score that was about half of that. Let's drill into these numbers and take a look at why that could be. So if you look at the customer address, it's very relevant. That data field is very relevant to many fields inside our company, many business processes inside our company. And you can see that it's highly valid, it's highly complete, but we can also access it in a very timely fashion. So whenever we need to get that field, whether it be to market to a customer, sell to a customer, ship to a customer, we can get that data in a timely fashion. If you look at customer install configuration, we also use that data on a frequent basis inside our company. It's valid, it's complete. However, we don't have access to fresh customer install configuration as readily as we do to our customer address. So you can see that this actually drops the score of our customer install configuration when you're looking at the actual business value of your information. Gartner has other equations as well. They have an equation for something called intrinsic value of information. So with this equation, you do not look necessarily at how many business units or how many business processes are consuming the information, but you're actually looking at the intrinsic value itself. How unique is it? What kind of competitive advantage is it? And you can see here that customer install configuration is 6 times more valuable because it's unique to our company. It's something that no other company possesses. It's incredibly insightful into how our customers are using our products, whereas customer address intrinsically is something that many of our competitors or other vendors in the industry possess. So once we took a look at the value of our own data inside Dell EMC, we began to wonder, how could we actually build an infrastructure that allowed the association of these values and other values such as monetary value inside our infrastructure. And we came upon our Analytic Insights module product. So what AIM is a catalog that sits on top of a data lake. And this catalog not only allows our customers to create a portfolio of their data assets, it can do this during ingest. So when a new data set comes into a data lake, a catalog entry is created. And similarly, when a data scientist takes that data set or multiple data sets out of the lake, creates analytic models, it can then publish those models and new data sets into a data lake and create a catalog entry. So our thinking was, given that this product is actually shipping in the fields, we have the opportunity to work with our customers on taking valuation processes such as the ones that we did inside Dell EMC and assigning business value of information, intrinsic value of information, cash that we paid for that data set, other ways of calculating value. We could manually go into that data lake and begin to assign value to every data set in the catalog. We also realized that this would be an opportunity for our customers to do this valuation in a more automated fashion. And we feel that although the infrastructure is ready to handle the assignment of value, what we're also finding out is that the industry is not ready. And so the next phase of our research and the next phase of our project is essentially to go out into the field and begin having these discussions, talking about our research, talking about the infrastructure being ready, and beginning to brainstorm with our customers about the best ways for them to assign value. And certainly one of the key people is the Dean of Big Data, Bill Schmarzo. So Bill is on the right here, talking to another analyst who's studying the field of data value, which is Peter Burris of Wikibon. Peter talks about building a digital business platform that has the capability of tracking the value of data. Bill believes the approach for creating new business processes that calculate value should lie with the Chief Data Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Legal Officer. So Bill is encouraging corporations to catalog what are the key business imperatives that you have during your year, and find those key business imperatives. Look at the anticipated revenue, cost savings, or risk reductions that these imperatives would bring to your company, and then find out what data assets you need to bring to that business imperative. So let's take a look at how that might flow. So let's consider a use case of an energy company that has a business imperative to reduce theft of energy off of an electrical grid. So let's say this company believes that they can save $45 million by reducing energy theft in a calendar year. So we can actually assign value to this business decision of $45 million. The next step in the process would be, well, let's identify what data sets map to that business decision and therefore map to that $45 million target. Well, in the case of an energy company, we might begin to catalog specific corporate assets such as sensor data coming from the electrical grid, geographical data of where power lines are and where customers are, field service data when a field service engineer goes out and notices that somebody's tapped into the grid. If those assets can be cataloged, brought together into a data lake, the next step is for the corporation to begin the tracking of the usage of those corporate assets, just like they would the tracking of their real estate assets, just like they would the tracking of their people assets. And what we see here through this tracking is the creation of analytic models that give analytic results that are brought to bear against that final target of saving $45 million. So what this allows our customers to do, once all of this is published into a centralized data lake, you can actually assign value to those assets. For example, you could say our analytic models are worth $45 million. Our sensor data, our geographical data, and field service data all equally contributed to this insight, so we're going to assign them $15 million. Now keep in mind, this is predicted value, and these numbers, you can go back and update them at the end of the year once you evaluate how well your business imperatives and your business insights worked. So going back to the original problems that we were seeing in our research study, if you look at a solution like this, you see that this type of catalog allows you to assign value to data sets. So when you're purchasing a data set from another company, you may have a much better feel for how much that data is worth based on what you have in your own catalog. You may be able to find out what data sets in your company may be monetizable. It could be your sensor data. It could be your analytic model. And now you have a value for your organization that you can maybe sell to another organization. You can consider how to create data products and services. For example, this utility company could take their analytic model and consider whether it might apply to another energy company in a different part of the world. And finally, it allows you to understand the value of your analytic models. You invested a certain amount in paying your data scientists for tools and equipment. On this case, you got a $45 million return. Is it a good investment? So this is the actual use case we're moving with and we're talking to in the industry. This is the approach we're considering as a result of the research. The question is, will this be required for our customers? Will they need to keep a catalog of their assets and keep track of the value because they'll be forced due to regulation to put this value on their corporate balance sheets? And the answer is no, not anytime soon. As we watch some of the standards bodies that would be responsible for bringing this accounting practice into compliance, like FASB and IAS, we've seen as recently as a year ago an article in the Wall Street Journal that basically says we're considering making this a topic. So from a compliance perspective, there's no rush for our customers or the industry to move to this model to be into compliance. But I think what we've demonstrated with the research is that the sooner you organize your data assets in that way, the more data savvy your company becomes, the more agility that you have in terms of understanding the value of your data, how to monetize data, how to save costs, etc. So where are we going with this research? Well, we're in the third year of this research with Dr. Short. 2 months ago, we published our first paper in MIT Sloan Management Review called What's Your Data Worth? And now where we're going is we're looking at the value of data and tying that value to electronic currency through systems such as Bitcoin or Ethereum, who have begun to create protocols that allow you to assign data assets value using Bitcoins or Ethers or other approaches. And then finally, Bill Schmarzo is continuing his work by starting a research project with the University of San Francisco about how to apply economic concepts to big data. You can see the abstract of his paper that the professor and he are working on, and this is something that you can begin to track and be involved with by contacting myself or Bill Schmarzo. So thank you for attending this presentation on the value of data. This is the first time this feature has been presented at Dell EMC World, and I think in the years ahead, you're going to see this topic become more talked about year after year.